All right, Wednesday in New York City, Built Ford Tough Studio, the Boomer NGO program on this March 19th. 888-808-1019 is the number. You know, driving in, I literally was wondering how we would get to 10 o'clock because nobody played last night, although the Nets did play. And then I realized the Rangers played, and then I realized there's a lot of football to get to and baseball to get to as well. And the more I actually looked around and read the newspaper and watched game highlights and watched coach press conferences, as I do when I get in at 4 o'clock in the morning, I actually realized that I'm going to let a guy go. I am going to let a guy get some crap off his chest, because here's what I noticed when I was watching highlights of the Rangers and Flames last night. 13 shots on goal for your New York. 13 in a 60-minute hockey game. And so I'm going to let you do what you have to do before we get into the other stuff, because I know it is eating at you. But I'm also going to say this. Here's my question for you, Mr. Boomer Esiason, to start the show. Lack of effort or lack of execution last night?
Both, actually. You know, and you could see it, and it was pathetic, and it was embarrassing. And it got so bad, you know, I like Steve Alliquette, you know, so he usually calls it pretty straight. Even Joe Picoletti got in on it, that he was disgusted, and you can hear it in his voice when he was doing the game. And usually those guys are always talking about the other team and how good they shoot it and how good they skate and how hard they are in the corners. And he tries to give platitudes towards the other team. Last night, finally, you know, even he and Sam were extremely opinionated about the performance that we witnessed last night for two teams that are fighting for the playoffs.
Similar spots,
and they're fighting for the playoffs. And the Flames last night, for anybody who cares, came off of a 6-2 loss the night before at the hands of the Maple Leafs. So you would think, obviously, they're going to be desperate, but you would think that since the Rangers had a day off, that they'd be a little bit more rested. They were so disconnected, so disinterested. I mean, if Vincent Trocheck throws another pass at one of his teammates' skates or 3 feet in front of the guy's stick, my head is going to explode. Keandre Miller, terrible last night. Will Borgen, terrible last night. Adam Fox, horrendous. The only guy that actually played last night that showed any sort of intensity or any sort of pride in trying to keep his team in the game was Igor, the goalie. And this reminded me of a lot of their performances that they put forth in December. Since JT Miller got here, they got a little bit edgier. They got a little bit better. He did raise the level of Mika Zibanejad, but all of a sudden, even he last night, he gets hit in the nuts. They don't call a penalty against the Flames. I mean, he's bent over going to the bench. He's probably got swollen nuts this morning, for all I know. I mean, it was a horrendous performance. And we were talking yesterday about the Yankees, and we talked about Garrett Cole not covering first base. I mean, you are in the middle of a playoff run. You've made some additions to this team. How about this? JT Miller calls one of his former teammates, Carson Soucy, and says, "Hey, waive your no-move clause and come to the Rangers. It's going to be awesome." That guy's buried on the bench, and he's only been here for like 10 days. Mm-hmm. I mean, you think he's happy?
Nope.
No. His coach has got to go. This is like, and I understand. Like, I always want to be somewhat respectful to how difficult it is to deal with all of these players, whether it be the manager, Aaron Boone, we were talking about yesterday, or talking about Peter Laviolette right now, or talking about Tom Thibodeau, or talking about anybody who's a leader of a team. But you could tell that the players just either they don't give a damn or something is amiss within the body of the team that has been amiss since they lost last year to the Panthers in the playoffs.
All right, and so you just led me down the path exactly where I was going to go. I look at a team that was, I think they were 30-11 at home last year under Peter Laviolette.
And they were the President's Trophy winner.
One of the best teams in hockey, no question about it. They got out to a good start. I know you thought it was fool's gold early. You turned out to be right.
Fool's gold. I didn't like the way they were playing.
But 16-16 essentially at home now, and it leads me to a wider conversation. Why is it that guys react to, and it could be any sport, they react to a head coach or a manager for a certain amount of time, and then it just becomes no. Is it on the players? Is it on? Does the message just get? Do they not respect him?
It's definitely on the players. Look, the Flames came in here last night. They hadn't been playing well either. And then last night they had probably their best performance in their last 6 or 7 games. And then the Rangers had their worst performance, since the turn of the new year. But a lot of it is the coach. A lot of it, he leans on guys, doesn't give guys certain ice time, but it's always going to defer to this coach anyway. Is always going to defer to the veterans in the room, that they're going to clean it up, that they're going to be leaders. And that reflection last night in the midst of a playoff push, which is not going to go deep in the playoffs anyway. But everybody says, well, you got the goalie.
Well, that's me, yeah.
I mean, you got the goalie, but, quite frankly, it's not a very physical team without Matt Rempe. I mean, they were so disconnected last night. I mean, the passing was horrendous. The defense was even worse again. I think there were at least 15 to 16 what they call, Valaquette would call a point-blank shot or a grade A attempt that, Igor somehow got in front of. I don't know if it was just because the Flames suck and they don't score a lot of goals and they just tend to hit the goalie. But the Rangers last night were just horrendous.
And they did throw the puck at the net. They just didn't get it to the net.
Or it was blocked by.
That's what I mean.
Blocked by, and part of really being a great point player or a player that's up around the blue line is somehow figuring out how to get the puck through. And when the puck usually gets through in situations like that, sometimes it goes in, and then you hear the announcer say the same thing: pucks to the net, pucks to the net. I mean, they overpass. They overpass. I don't know. I mean, Will Cooley must think that he's turning into Artemi Panarin or something. Shoot it. Just absolutely put it on net. Don't always try to have to make the pass. You can get a pass can come off of the goalie. I mean, I know I'm going into the weeds right now.
Well, remember we talked about. Remember you mentioned that pass can be off the goalie. Remember when they lost to, it was the Kings, I believe, right? That game winner was shot off of. The goal. Oh my God, Lundqvist.
Yes.
And remember we sat there and talked about it. It was almost like that was a designed play.
Well, it is. Like you come down the right wing, you can't get it across because there's 5 guys in between you and your left wing.
So you shoot it off the pad.
And and Henrik's going to kick it out.
Yep.
And and obviously they have metrics. They have film study that they go through. It's mind numbing that the simplest thing to do is to play the game straight ahead. That's the simplest thing to do. And when you are struggling, somehow, some way, you got to find the will to play straight ahead. And if the Rangers hadn't played as poorly as they did in the month of December, just mailed it in pretty much, mailed every single game.
One of the worst stretches they've had in a long time.
I mean, I couldn't believe the team I was watching because this is the team that I really liked and respected. It's an 82-game season, so there's always going to be downturns in the season. There are going to be ebbs and flows. I understand all of that. But this is the final 15 games of the year. You're in the midst of it, and you're trying to make it to the playoffs. And believe you me, the Garden wants them in the playoffs, even if it's for only one series. But, I mean, last night was it was so hard to watch. And I'm like, what? JT Miller was brought here to bring an edge out in players. And that was gone last night. That was completely gone. And he asked one of his buddies to waive a no-move clause, and his buddy is here, and his buddy's not playing.
And you literally uttered the words, "The coach has got to go," which you don't do often.
I'm done. I listen. I know Chris Drury is trying his ass off to try to get the team right, to get the right players in here, the right ideas, the right mindset. My God, I mean, last night was pathetic.
I kind of figured you'd be,
and it was embarrassing. And look, we were talking about the Knicks yesterday, and we were talking about what their expectations are, and they're going to feel the burden of those expectations once the playoffs start, because everybody thinks that they did a lot of moves to get them better than and farther where they were last year, but they may not make it just simply because the teams in front of them are significantly better.
It is amazing when you think about the expectations of the season, now talking about Knicks and Rangers, and I only say it from the standpoint of what we were discussing yesterday. There's a very real possibility here as we sit here in the mid to the end of March, the Rangers may not make the postseason. You're talking about what the Garden needs, or at least wants, in terms of postseason games. And then, the more you watch the Knicks, I don't believe this to be the case, but there are a lot of people out there that think they could be a first round and out. And I don't think when the Garden did their budget for 2025, they ever anticipated only having a handful of postseason games.
No, I think some of the stuff that you're talking about, and I have seen it too, these are national commentators that I think are sick and tired of the Knicks pomp and circumstance,
the narrative,
PR, marketing, and all that other crap. And the amount of discussion they garner because the Knicks fan base is so big and so huge, and they really haven't had much to cheer for over the last 25 years. And we finally have a group of players that we think that they can win a championship, but although it may not happen just simply because of the teams in front of them. But I mean, as far as the Rangers are concerned, you bring in JT Miller to reunite him with his best friend Vincent Trocheck, and those guys were lost last night. I mean, these guys are the guys that have to drag this team across the playoff finish line if they want to get in it. And they either have to wake up this morning and say, I listen to all these things. I listen to post game. I'm up to like 11:30 listening to this stupid crap. Wow. It's always the same goddamn thing. Oh, I don't know. If it wasn't for Igor, we'd probably lose 8-1. Yeah, you're damn straight. At least you recognize, and there's some self-awareness about the piss poor play that we saw last night. I mean, that's a pain. That is ridiculous.
Oh, I know it was bad.
That is absolutely effing ridiculous.
Well, I'm not going to lie to you. I told Al, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to let him go at 6 o'clock because I know he's going to be ticked off with what he saw last night at the Garden.
I mean, if you're a fan, and think about it, is the Islanders now, to their credit, they lose one of their best players in terms of the trade, Brock Nelson. They haven't had Matthew Barzal on the ice. And all they're doing is, kind of hanging around. They're hanging around. They're 2 points behind the Rangers now. Rangers are out of a playoff spot right now. Other teams have games in hand. And I would walk in there this morning, and I swear to God, I would be ripping everyone a new ass.
But are they? But,
I would be ripping everybody. I'd be like this, and except for Igor, I'd say, Igor, you go stand over there, have some Carvel ice cream, relax a little bit because you busted your ass and you kept this team in it. And it's an embarrassment like what Adam Fox has turned into, what Keandre Miller's doing. I mean, how many board battles in the offensive zone they lose and the puck never gets thrown to the front of the net? Why? Because nobody's ever standing in front of the effing front of the net. Why? Because they're behind the net. You can't score unless you're Wayne Gretzky from behind the net.
But isn't it just if he comes in
and then you watch the other
that.
team, and then they're in your corner, and the puck always comes out in front of the net, and there's no blue shirt standing in front of the net.
You really think they would respond? See, to me, it sounds like, from what you're telling me, that Peter Laviolette is just waff to this team at this point.
Yeah, look, I think there's some mental crap going on with this team, and there's been some drama around these guys, and I'm like, drama? I mean, you guys are professional athletes. You play a great sport. You play in the greatest arena in the league. You have a passionate fan base that is just crazed about you. And then you go out there and you put a performance like this together against a team that got their asses handed to them 6-2 the night before. That's the other thing. It's one thing if the Colorado Avalanche are coming in here. Hey, they played Edmonton tough. They couldn't score a goal, and that kid Skinner, played out of his mind. Those things are going to happen. They played a tough game against Edmonton. I came in the next morning and said, hey, all right, they played tough.
Yep.
Last night, that was completely unacceptable. And for the highest ticket prices in the league, or maybe the second highest compared to Toronto, maybe Montreal, given their tax situation up there and how far or how little their dollar goes, who the hell knows? But I would tell you that was a pathetic performance.
And I'll say this again. I've said it before. Sam Rosen can't go out like this. The final call he had last night, he sounded so, I would say, it's a combination. Yeah, it was a combination of like disappointed and angry all at the same time. If you, it was like letting the crowd go. They would say something. He just seems like just disgusted is another good word, I would say. And this is not the way Sam Rosen's supposed to go out. Not with this team. Not with the career he had. Not that.
No.
And matters all that much.
You can flip lines around. You can move everybody around. When the team is not connected and you think you're going to mail it in because it's a team that's just coming off of a 6-2 loss. And we're all human beings. They're human beings too. I'm not saying that they're robots, but this is like supposed to be desperation time. And the reason you acquired the players that you have brought in here is because you think that they can help you turn around whatever was ailing you back in December. And they had a little bit of a bump, but now all of a sudden it's back to where they were in December, and that's dangerous. And, you got a lot of guys that are going to come back again next year. They have contracts. They're going to be here. Your first overall draft pick, Alexis Lafreniere, has completely disappeared.
Has not been a good season for sure. He
had some moments, and then all of a sudden, gone. And I don't know what it is. I mean, and he's a young kid. You want to let him play through some of the downturns because they all go through it. I don't know why it always happens to the Rangers and their young, developed players. Like, what is going on? Why can't they grow up to be the player that you expect him to be when you drafted them. And I think that they're going to give Braden Schneider and they're going to give Condre Miller a chance to do that, and they're going to have to live with the mistakes that they make. But my God, I mean, at least have some effort. Somebody fight somebody. Matt Rempe is on the team last night, and I know he takes a bad penalty and ends up in a goal. But I mean, like, fight somebody, do something, show some heart. So that's the one thing I liked about Jacob Trouba. He would knock the crap out of somebody. He'd throw his helmet, and you know what? The damn team would react. Say what you want, they would react. And then all of a sudden, he became public enemy number one because he couldn't skate last year with a broken freaking foot. And now here we are with this. It's okay to play at home like a bunch of.
Relax. I told you to be careful. Be careful.
I'm going to be careful. I'm going to get it off my chest.
You feel a little better? You know what I feel like we just did? I feel like we just did the warm-up show. I feel like when Al comes in upset and he's got to get crap off his chest, let him go a little bit. I kind of knew that you would be steaming from the ears. Do you feel a little bit better? A little bit?
No, I don't. You know why? Because I don't. If this team is going to play like this, the stretch run here, all of these games count. Every single one of them means. And you wonder, is there any way, shape, or form that they can find the heart to get them into the playoffs and then steal a playoff series? Could they do that?
Most important game is the next one in front of you, boom.
As I sit here this morning, I say there's no way this team has what it takes. There is something significant missing.
All right, we are just getting started. We've got CeeLo coming in next. I will try and limit that Ranger talk because we just did 15 minutes of it, and I do feel like a little stress has been relieved. We have a lot to do. Believe it or not, we have a lot to do today. Including
everybody's favorite team, North Carolina, won last night.
No one cares. I mean,
they're everybody's favorite team. They won. They're in.
Everyone's favorite team.
Now they got to play Ole Miss. Watch them beat Ole Miss.
One of the funny headlines was, they stuck it to the critics. No, they didn't. Not at all. They didn't. Just because it's not like they're a bad team. It still doesn't mean they deserve to be in. But whatever. Anyhow, we'll get to that. We'll get to. I found a couple of. I know you want to talk about one of the football teams. You kind of teased that at the end of the show yesterday.
Yeah.
And then I have a couple of things from the NFL, too. But CeeLo coming up next. 888-808-1019 is the number. We'll get to your calls throughout the course of the morning, as well as the Boomer and Geo program on the Fan and CBS Sports Network.
I really don't remember what I teased yesterday. You're going to have to remind me.
It was right before we signed off.
I'm so, my hip brain is.
You have tunnel vision right now. I got you.
Yeah, I'm 63 years old, and I'm hanging on a thread with this freaking team. What am I doing?
I hear you.
Should be out playing golf and forgetting all this crap.